So, is AGI coming this year?
The problem with AGI is that it is predicted to arrive every year. Every year, experts say that it will arrive this year or soon after. Maybe we should first consider what characteristics AI must have to become general purpose and to act independently.
Indeed. There are probably a number of conditions.
Let's start with free will.
But is there any literature on this topic?
A little has been written about it. One of the first was Ray Kurzweil in 1999.
Even if we limit our discussion to computers that are not directly derived from a particular human brain, they will increasingly appear to have their own personalities, evidencing reactions that we can only label as emotions, and articulating their own goals and purposes. They will appear to have their own free will.
Yeah, he does not explain why AI should have free will.
A year later, McCarthy provided a reason for this. For him, the problem is very simple.
Free will does not require a very complex system. Young children and rather simple computer systems can represent internally, I can but I won't, and behave accordingly.
Children react this way, but computers do not. No LLM has ever refused to give me an answer because it did not want to.
He did indeed choose a poor example. A little further on, he clarifies what he means by free will.
There are different kinds and levels of free will. An automobile has none. A chess program has a minimal kind of free will. And a human has a lot.
Why does a chess program have free will?
His definition of free will is very general.
That the program considers alternatives is our reason for ascribing to it a little free will, whereas we ascribe none to the automobile.
Essentially, he considers a program to have free will if it just makes a random decision. A system does not have to be conscious in order to make decisions.
Having choices is usefully distinguished from the higher capability of knowing about them.
That may be useful, but, as far as I know, no one had made such a distinction before him. There is a consensus that consciousness is a prerequisite for free will.
Most people who believe that AI can have free will base their views on Daniel Dennett's philosophy. He wrote extensively about this topic already in the 1980s. Dennett takes a skeptical stance, claiming that consciousness and free will only exist from an external perspective, if at all. According to Daniel Dennett, we can speak of free will insofar as we can describe it. Free will can only be described from an outside perspective. To do so, one must be able to observe an intentional stance.
First, you decide to treat the object whose behavior is to be predicted as a rational agent. Then you figure out what beliefs that agent ought to have, given its place in the world and its purpose. Then you figure out what desires it ought to have, on the same considerations. And finally, you predict that this rational agent will act to further its goals in the light of its beliefs. A little practical reasoning from the chosen set of beliefs and desires will, in many, but not all, instances yield a decision about what the agent ought to do. That is what you predict the agent will do.
Then, instead of trying to understand what someone is thinking, or if they are even capable of thinking, you can derive free will exclusively from behavior.
Consequently, there are hardly any restrictions on discussion free will. Dennett's perspective aligns with this viewpoint.
Like the lowly thermostat, as simple an artifact as can sustain a rudimentary intentional stance interpretation, the clam has its behaviors, and they are rational, given its limited outlook on the world. We are not surprised to learn that trees that are able to sense the slow encroachment of green-reflecting rivals shift resources into growing taller faster, because that's the smart thing for a plant to do under those circumstances. Where on the downward slope to insensate thinghood does real, believing and desiring stop and mere as if believing and desiring take over. According to intentional systems theory, this demand for a bright line is ill-motivated.
This opens up many possibilities for interpreting the theory. And some AI theorists have taken up these possibilities. One of them is Christian List. He first addressed the topic in his book, Why Free Will is Real. This year he wrote a paper that answers this question in more detail.
Can AI systems have free will?
That is the title of his paper.
My aim is set out the criteria for free will in AI.
He bases his argument on Dennett's three criteria: representational states, which are beliefs; motivational states, which are desires; the third is a capacity to interact with an environment.
But the real question is how to determine whether a system meets these criteria.
What we need is a test that tells us, for any given system, whether or not that system is an agent. To devise such a test, I begin with a slightly different question, namely, how can we best explain a given system's behavior? A system is an intentional agent if it can be successfully explained in intentional terms.
With Dennett, however, it is problematic. He attributes a certain degree of intentionality to even a thermostat.
List acknowledges this issue and attempts to define intentionally more narrowly.
The agency test. To determine whether a system is an intentional agent, we must ask whether the system is best explained in intentional terms. For a system to pass this test, it must be the case that taking an intentional stance towards the system is not merely possible, but necessary or indispensable for certain explanatory purposes.
A thermostat can also be explained without attributing intentionality to it.
Then which machines or systems can we say have intentionality?
Many weak AI systems engage in relatively specialized number crunching tasks. We can understand those systems just as well at a purely algorithmic level. Stronger AI systems? Examples might be sophisticated driverless cars, fully automatic military drones, future medical helper robots. Such systems might be best viewed as goal-directed intentional agents and not just as number-crunching machines. Viewing them as intentional agents may be not just optional, but explanatorily necessary, in much the same way in which we cannot understand a chimpanzee as a mere biochemical automaton without recognizing its intentional agency. In short, free will need not be tied to any particular hardware. It could occur in social systems and in algorithmic computational ones, not just in biological organisms.
What kind of free decision does an autonomous car or a robot in a factory make?
According to List, these systems are faced with a choice and must make a decision. But this is just one of several conditions of freedom. Freedom means having the ability to set a goal. But in algorithmic systems, the goal is predetermined. The system's decisions are limited to how they achieve the predetermined goal. If their choices are unpredictable, it is because they are stochastic.
This is similar to rolling dice. One might also ask whether dice have free will.
List is also not entirely sure whether his method is correct. He admits that his method does not necessarily allow intentionality to be determined.
I want to emphasize that, by making use of this test, we are not committing ourselves to an interpretivist view about agency. Interpretability as an agent is not constitutive of agency, but merely indicative. It is just a strong symptom of agency.
List already has his followers. Martela is one of them and wrote this year an article on the subject. He offers a solution for overcoming uncertainty about whether a system is intentional.
While AI has local free will, humans have global free will. The difference between humans and AI is thus a matter of degree. Humans are closer to the global free will.
But where is the threshold? What is the condition for the threshold? Only those conditions determine where the threshold is. Defining these conditions is the problem.
Martela replaces one inaccuracy with another.
Their theory is based on the philosophy of Daniel Dennett, but he does not support their claims. In fact, he believes that they are incorrect. Dennett believes that computers do not have free will.
I've been involved with artificial intelligence really pretty much since its birth, and we're living right now in one of the bursts of enthusiasm. And indeed, AI has surprised us all. I think just about everybody has been surprised by the recent giant steps that AI has taken. But still, I think we're comically far away from some of the articulated goals of AI: artificial general intelligence, intelligent robots, making an intelligence greater than human intelligence. These are so far away that I don't expect to see any such development within my lifetime or the lifetime of my grandchildren.
Whether or not to attribute free will to a machine is a matter of interpretation. It's hard to determine if an object has free will when you only know it through observation and interpretation. Consider, for example, the 18th century chess-playing machine, the mechanical Turk.
That's nonsense. There were no computers back then.
These were illusions or just interpretations. The audience was presented with a machine that could play chess. Some believed it was an automaton. They did not know that someone was hiding inside the device, playing the game. In reality, there was no machine at all. The mechanical Turk fulfills the conditions set by Christian Liszt.
Indeed, you're right about that. But what if AGI does come one day?
The answer must then not be a stochastic prediction of the next token, but rather be unexpected. For example, if I ask a chatbot a question, and having it says, "It doesn't feel like answering my stupid question."
That would be AGI. Sam Altman from OpenAI would be very happy about that.
And OpenAI would go bankrupt because no one would want to use a chatbot that doesn't provide answers.
A chatbot with free will is actually a bad idea.
Fortunately for OpenAI, the free will of a machine is limited to our interpretation.
All right, let us know your interpretation in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and see you next time.